Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, there he is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Off the Dome Sports Podcast, your favorite sports podcast where 2 and sometimes 3 sports lovers sit and give their hot takes.
Off the Dome.
I am Tommy Tanks.
I am Dylan Cruz.
I'm Clown Car Slash, your favorite get-back coach.
And we will be steering this ship tonight. In case you can't tell, we are dressed up for spoopy season. Good old Halloween. Boys, how we doing?
What a time to be alive.
Oh, some would say.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's
Thank you,
all
Clown
beautiful.
Car. Thank you, Clown Car. We appreciate your insight.
Yeah.
All right.
Got a hell of a weekend brewing.
We do.
But first, we got to talk about previous weekend.
Do we?
Yes,
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Before we get started, obviously follow us on the X, _Dome Pod. That's how you keep up with all of our updates. We're trying to stay active on there. We'll always post a live link. We'll always post, when we're going live. It is Tuesdays at 7, but in case you forget, we'll pop up on your feed and saying, hey, it's time to go.
Keep those notifications on. So
yeah.
You don't miss a show.
Of course. Follow us off the _Dome Pod. Follow at Be in the Know, KNEAUX, the only way to spell it. The boys at the know. So much content popping off over there with the Pelicans starting up. Got a lot of content going through there. LSU's in some prime time right now, which we'll get into. Saints coming off a big win. I mean, it's a good time to be a Louisiana sports fan. So, really excited about what we've got going on the No Network, and really excited about what's going on at OTD. Without further ado, normally we start off with the team we're all repping right now, the purple and gold.
However,
but they were on a bye week,
Yeah.
so why don't we start with the team that did play, and we talk about the New Orleans Saints.
Whoa.
Hey, big win for the boys in black and gold, huh?
Definitely.
Big win for the boys in black and gold. Took home a win in Indianapolis, ended up beating the Colts. We were down 17-7 in the first half, but in the second half, we kind of we ran away with it. It was by far our best game yet out of our offense, 511 total yards. Defense didn't have their best game, but when Taysom Hill's scoring 2 touchdowns and Kamara's your best receiver and Michael Thomas, played really, really well, played through sickness. I mean, everything seemed to be clicking pretty much for that Saints offense. So what's the takeaways out of this game, boys?
Yeah, like you said, big explosion out of our offense this week. Really great to see them start clicking. Started to see a lot of different play calls being drawn up, a lot of different movement out of the receivers, out of the backfield, stuff like that, which led to some pretty explosive drives throughout the games, especially in the second half. But on the other side of the ball, unfortunately, our defense did take a pretty significant step back, as a lot of people thought going into this week that the Saints defense was going to kind of control Indy, especially with all the injuries, all the things going on, having to split reps between the running backs. Gardner Minshew, who had a great game. Shout out
Hey,
to that mustache, which is now not a mustache.
wow, you know me.
Kind of upset about that. But
You know me.
all in all, got the win. Felt good. And it feels pretty good moving forward to see. Now we can finally see what this team's capable of.
Yeah.
We've seen the defense hold a shutout against Bill Belichick. We've seen the offense explode this week against, a pretty good defense when you look at it.
Definitely got some talent, for sure.
And so I think it's a really good thing going forward, looking on to the next few weeks towards the middle of this season. Got a positive outlook going forward.
Yeah.
Changed my mind completely.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'd like to highlight 2 players, one on offense, one on defense, and then say a little something negative about the offense, even though it's our best offensive week so far.
Have anything nice?
No.
I'm just saying. Okay.
All right.
So defensively, Paulson Adebo looked amazing.
He did. Might have been his best game to date.
Might have been his best game to date. We've seen Alontae Taylor play insane. We've seen Marshawn Lattimore play insane. And so
Absolutely.
we're looking for all 3 of them to have a great game all at the same time, and that's whenever we pitch another shutout. Offensively,
Excuse you.
Offensively,
Tommy's tanking, you know what I mean?
Rashid Shaheed, crazy stat of
Randy
3
Moss stat line.
receptions.
I don't know if
For
you
like-
saw that picture. They photoshopped Shaheed's face on
Yeah.
the wall.
3 catches, 153 and a touchdown.
Yeah. So that was awesome to see, just the Shaheed balls, like the deep balls to Shaheed actually
Pause.
working.
Young High
But
guys.
my negative takeaway from the offense is, I know we have some injuries on our left side of the offensive line.
The whole
And-
side of the offense.
Yeah, on the whole offensive line, and we're still questioning why they benched Penning. But the only note that I have in my phone from this game is the left side of the offensive line looks soft. Somehow they held up, but just poor technique. We've been hounding Chris Olave for playing uninspired. That was some pretty uninspired plays from Andres Pete.
We've been seeing that for like 4 years now.
Oh, yeah. And Garcia looks a little lost. Not a shocker for somebody who hasn't played in big games yet. But all in all, best offensive game so far. Defense looked okay, not great, but okay. And finally a bright spot that we're looking forward to next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Offensive line, obviously not great. I think they are probably the weakest point on our offense right now. I think this was it's hard to say a coming out game for a 10-year vet, but this felt like the coming out game for Derek Carr, where
Coming out
he
from
finally,
New Orleans.
finally had some comfort in the system. And what I think it was for me, it's not even like the bomb to Rashid that made me feel that way. It was more of like the quick out routes. Olave did get involved this week. I was hounding on him last week. He still didn't have a great game. He went 5 for 46, I think.
He was one late turnaround away from having an exceptional game.
I mean,
because he probably would have housed that.
Hit him right in the visor.
Yeah, he just.
If he catches that ball, it's an easy catch and run into the end zone because he had a beautiful double move. I've been kind of saying he's been running routes uninspired. He ran routes well this week. I'm not going back on my take because I think he still was not playing his best. But he did come out of the funk a little bit and hope he continues to improve upon that and get back to what we saw last year.
Yeah, maybe Kenner Police little fire under his ass.
Maybe so. Maybe the Kenner Police are the reason Chris Olave got better. Which whatever the reason is, I'm happy for it. But Michael Thomas had his most receiving yards to date this season. Like we said about Rashid catching the bombs, like Derek Carr looked like he was finally comfortable enough in the offense to where he could connect with his receivers on any kind of route. It wasn't just out routes. It wasn't just verticals. It was all over the field. Thanks, Mom. Tell Owen I said hello. I do look silly. But yeah, I think Carr finally had his best game in black and gold. Kamara was playing really well. And then, like Reese said, Paulson Adebo, absolute great game out of Paulson Adebo. He was making I listened to most of it on the radio because I was driving, but from what I could hear, he was all over the field, breaking up passes. Pretty sure he got a pick.
He did.
So really good game.
And he had on that interception. Sorry to interrupt you, Tommy.
No, you're good. Go.
But on that interception, he actually picked it off on like the 2-yard line, but his momentum carried him into the end zone, and he was smart enough to do everything he could to get back out of that end zone.
Well, that has hurt us this season.
Yeah.
So glad that didn't happen again. But yeah, Indy's offense has actually been really, really good this season with Shane Steichen. I think they've hit the over of their game like 7 out of their 8 games or something. They've been scoring points. We know that the Browns defense is one of the best defenses in the league, and they scored like 39 on them 2 weeks ago. So for our defense to come out there and keep them under what we needed to keep them under in order for us to win the game. Very impressive by our defense. So I'm really excited about what we saw out of this Saints team. And it's not like the game coming up is too difficult either. We have the Chicago Bears on Sunday. So what are we looking forward to against Chicago? What do we think is going to happen there, boys?
Looking forward to keeping the ball rolling against a questionable Chicago defense. Do we know if
Tyson Bagent will be starting?
Yeah, Fields is again out.
So Fields is out again. Defense should look good.
Unless we get an arm wrestling match.
Is he him?
His dad.
His dad
No,
was
Tyson
a 28-time
Bagent,
arm wrestling world champion.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Let's hope it doesn't come to. Let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, triple overtime rules. arm wrestle. Did I throw you off track?
Oh yeah.
You're talking about Chicago's offense.
Oh no, I was talking about Chicago's defense.
Oh, okay.
They just traded for Sweat, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Traded for Montez Sweat today from the Commanders, 2nd round pick.
Do we think that he's going to play?
I would assume.
Yeah, I would think so.
Because for me, I would assume so because he's an edge rusher. Like, I understand you're going to need to know some schemes and some stunts. Understand, what different packages you have out there, what you may be doing, where you might line up. But I think Montez Sweat is kind of like a throw him in at 5 tech and let him go type guy.
Yeah.
So it should be fine.
But other than him, this is like one of the most questionable front sevens. Edmonds has not been playing very well since he moved to the Bears. And so I'd be shocked if we didn't have another repeat of the same offensive game that we saw this week.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I definitely don't think that you should just, especially in the NFL, you should ever overlook an opponent. Never kind of play down to their level. Always try and, if you had a win, repeat that. Keep the momentum. Don't ever underestimate an opponent in the NFL because we've seen it before. We'll see it again. Anybody can win any given Sunday. But with that being said, defense is a little questionable for Chicago. They've been a little banged up this season. But adding Montez Sweat probably would be it's going to be a good thing for him. He's probably going to get after Derek Carr a few times, especially if he's coming off the left side. But their secondary has kind of been their focal point of their defense this season. They've definitely thrown some teams off balance and kept some games close, kept Chicago in some of these games. But their offense has kind of been lackluster. A lot of injuries. Like they're down to their 4th running back now at Donta Foreman. They're down to backup quarterback, not Nathan Peterman.
As it shouldn't be.
But he's next up.
This guy.
So yeah, as long as our defense can stop Donta Foreman from doing what he did 2 weeks ago, we should be okay.
Yeah. One more point about the Bears secondary, just because you mentioned him. Jaquan Brisker did miss last week, who's a fantastic second-year player. So we don't know his health. If he's out, you never want anybody to be injured, but it would look better for that Saints offense if Brisker's not in the game. Jalen Johnson, who's their corner, he had requested a trade yesterday, and they, the team gave him permission to seek a trade and ended up working out, so he will be back with the team. So they've got another good young secondary player, Jalen Johnson.
I was actually going to point that out, but another thing, their other safety, Eddie Jackson, still has not played a game yet this season, who's been known to break up some passes deep down the field, break up some plays.
Yeah.
He's once again questionable.
Cool.
Pro Bowler, right?
Eddie Jackson?
Yes.
Yeah. Gotta be. Yeah, I mean, they definitely have talent in their secondary. It's whether or not they'll stay healthy enough and be in the game.
Yeah, pretty banged up team, kind of similar to the Saints last season.
Definitely. But yeah, like we've been talking about, this Saints offense, it feels like they found something. And as long as we can keep that going, I think we'll be all right. I think for us, the main thing is play with tempo and play with confidence. It feels at sometimes the Saints offense can get very mundane and just repeat. And once you keep doing that, they just get mad at each other. Instead of, yelling at each other on the sideline or trying to cause problems between each other, just be like, hey, we got this. We're cool. We know what we can do. Like, they know they have the talent to do it. It's getting it done that's been the problem.
And that's what I think makes it so frustrating for the players.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
know that they have all this upside, all this promise, but it's just something wasn't clicking for the longest, and I think they finally unlocked that last week.
Yeah, I sure hope so. So we'll go ahead and we'll do score predictions as we like to do. For me, I mean, the Bears are just they're not a great football team. The Saints aren't necessarily a great football team, but they're a team that's moving forward.
Correct.
So I'm gonna take us to win the game, of course. So I'll go Saints 31, Bears
Don't say it.
16.
Oh, he didn't say it. Very close to saying it.
This man does it to me every time.
I was going to say 31-17.
I was going to say 32-13.
You go, and I'll come up with a different one.
Well,
Yugoslavia.
You just heard me. I'm
better.
going 32-13 Saints. I think that the offense is going to keep the ball rolling, and that defense won't have much of a problem with a a fourth string running back and a backup quarterback, if we're being honest, because we know what the Saints defense can do, spotting them 13 in case we get a little awkward field position or something like that. So yeah.
Don't doubt Donta.
Oh no, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm just gonna back up these guys here. What they said, I agree with completely. I'm gonna go with also a Saints win, but since Tommy and DC3 think so much alike, I'll change mine. I'll say 41-20.
Wow, 41-20.
Offense keeps it rolling.
Kind of love that. So obviously we all have the Saints winning big, which is a hope and a dream, but I think this week we can make it come true. If we played like we did against the Colts, I think we can do it. Let's go real quick through the NFL in general, just because today was the trade deadline, and I know Soundman's talking about it in the chat. So we can go through each trade and kind of just give quick thoughts about each one, maybe which one was our favorite, which one we think doesn't work out so well. So the first one we'll mention is the one Soundman dropped in. Niners got Chase Young. I think it was a third-round pick coming from the Niners to the Commanders, who send Chase Young, former second overall pick right behind Joe Burrow, to the already stacked 49ers defense.
Yeah. You saw what LA did. What was that? I think that was last offseason, acquiring Khalil Mack to pair with Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is kind of another move to get another stud and put him on the opposite side of a Bosa bro. The only thing that I really have to say about this is, can Chase Young stay healthy?
Yeah, that's
we haven't seen it yet.
That's been his question for 3 years.
When he's on the field, he is unbelievable. He is in the backfield 90% of the time when he's on the field. The problem is keeping him on the field. If he can stay on the field, stay healthy for the rest of the season, the 49ers defense was already legit, and I think this could take it a step further.
I just think if you're going to compete for a championship, pass rush specialist like Chase Young, Chase Young is gonna benefit no matter what, no matter if he plays every down or if he's healthy for just 50% of the time. I think that it's a good move by the Niners. I mean, all of us would trade a third-round pick for the number 2 overall pick.
Absolutely, yeah. Just like Soundman said, 60% of the time it works every time.
There it is.
Quote.
So and then
said
we'll
that quote. Paul Rudd.
We'll move chronologically from there. So Leonard Williams from the Giants to the Seahawks for a second and a fifth. Leonard Williams is a very, very good interior defensive lineman that I think is really going to help out that Seahawks defense.
Big cat.
One of the best,
some would say. Kentavious Street, former Saint, from the Eagles to the Falcons. With Grady Jarrett tearing his ACL, they needed some depth there in order to cover his spot, so they went with Kentavious Street, former NFC South player. I don't think that one's too big.
No.
We covered Montez Sweat. We covered Chase Young. One of the most interesting ones I found, Josh Dobbs got traded to the Minnesota Vikings to cover for Kirk Cousins tearing his Achilles. So they announced 2 days ago, Cardinals did, that Clayton Tune would be starting this upcoming week in preparation for Kyler Murray to come back. So Josh Dobbs was going to hit the bench, and I think they did that in preparation for trading him because his value's at an all-time high.
Right.
Although the Cardinals are technically the worst team by record, Josh Dobbs has played great.
Yeah.
I don't think he's been the problem at all. And they've put up decent amount of points week in and week out. So
they beat Dallas, so I'm happy.
Yeah, and it's kind of been their defense that's been the problem. It hasn't really been the offense. Yeah. The offense has scored a decent amount of points. So Josh Dobbs going to Minnesota. Do you think this keeps Minnesota in the playoff picture?
The way Josh Dobbs was playing, I do. Normally, like, you say something like that any other season, it's kind of like, you just kind of brush it off. But with Cousins being out for the rest of the season, with Dobbs performing the way he has so far this season, I think that I do think the Vikings offense is better than the Cardinals offense. as
Some
a
would say.
receiving core as,
Yeah.
as a whole. So I think if he can continue the playmaking that he had from the beginning of the season over to Minnesota, they'll be successful and could probably make a playoff push in a weak NFC conference.
Do we know how long Jettis is out?
It should be.
I think he's got, what, 2
I
weeks
think-
left?
I think this is his second week on IR. So it'll be 2 more weeks, I believe.
Because personally, like, Dobbs is great. I've just pulled up. He's been on 6 different teams in the past 2 years.
Yeah, correct.
Correct.
Backup.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
It's because he's a rocket scientist.
But so
Literally.
I think that he's like he'll be good enough for them to win a couple games. I just think that the Vikings season depends on when Justin Jefferson gets healthy and when does he come back full strength right away.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's a great point. If Jettis doesn't come back when he's supposed to, and then not only that, but when he does come back, he's not full health and he's not Jay Jettis, it's not great for that offense. Although Jordan Addison has stepped in and been a fantastic
Big time.
player, Jordan Addison is not Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is one of one. He is arguably the best player in the entire NFL. So if he can come back and he can be healthy and he can live up to the Justin Jefferson standards, this team can sneak into the wild card. I think they're 500 right now, sitting at 4-4 and, second in their division with an NFC that's kind of just middling.
Yeah.
Just you've got your 4 to 5 top teams, and then everybody else is really 500.
Yeah, they have, according to record, the 2 best teams in the NFL, the Niners and the... Well, no, not even the Niners anymore.
No,
they
it's
lost, was 3 straight?
yeah, they've lost 3 straight, which
The Eagles...
I've talked about that.
The Eagles and the Lions being up there with their record. But, I've said it before, there's really no standout teams
Yeah.
in the NFL this year. They're all competing at a around the same level pretty
We've seen
much.
every team play a bad game.
Exactly, yeah.
Moving on to our last 2 trades here. Buffalo and Green Bay had a trade. Buffalo got Rasul Douglas for a 3rd-round pick. Rasul Douglas
Wow.
was the second corner in Green Bay. Buffalo looking to add to that secondary. We've seen them have their holes, and then they'll really need them this week when they have Sunday night football game against the Cincinnati Bengals. So with a team like Buffalo who's looking to make a push and finally get to that Super Bowl they've been pushing for the past 4 seasons, they saw some help needed in the secondary, and they got Rasul Douglas.
Yeah. Is Trey White out for the season again?
No,
I know he missed some games, but I don't. That's
I
what
don't
I
think
was
he's
gonna
out for
ask
the
too.
year.
I remember him getting a pretty bad injury a few weeks ago.
I hope he's not out for the year. I don't know the status of Tre'Davious White.
But, being that, your main cornerback is injured or was injured, I don't know if he's coming back this week or not. Picking up a cornerback like Rasul Douglas, who can hang with the best of them, is a great pickup, especially for a 3rd-round pick.
And then my favorite trade and the last trade of the weekend, or of today, it's not the weekend at all, it's Tuesday. The Detroit Lions, my Detroit Lions made a move that I think is overlooked and underrated.
Trey White's out
Donovan
for the year.
Peoples-Jones
He is.
got moved to Detroit. Wait, what'd you say?
Trey White's out for the year.
He's out for the year?
Right Achilles tendon.
Jeez.
Tough scenes.
Donovan Peoples-Jones goes from Cleveland to Detroit. They add another wide receiver to that room. We saw Jameson Williams have some, dropping issues last night in the Monday Night Football game. Josh Reynolds, while he's a very good player, it's not like he's a dependable wide receiver too. Then you have guys like Khalif Raymond, who's 5
Kick return specialist.
5'11", 4.3 speed, but it's not like he's a wide receiver extraordinaire.
Yeah. Don't forget about Craig Reynolds. He can catch the ball now.
Craig Reynolds is a good running back. Jameer Gibbs, basically a wide receiver out the backfield
Yeah.
at points. But they add another guy who just makes sense for that team. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a very consistent player. He was being underutilized in Cleveland because they brought in Elijah Moore in the offseason, and he's been more of what they've been looking for. So Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore in Cleveland, Donovan Peoples-Jones was kind of the odd man out. So I think that the Detroit Lions decided to be the one to make their move. Got another wide receiver in the room for Jared Goff in that offense.
Yeah, I mean, can't argue with that. Getting a player like him for little, always a good thing. Another weapon for Goff. I do think he plays a pretty similar role to Josh Reynolds, but I think he's maybe like a step better, right?
Yeah.
So like he's gonna maybe not fumble that ball last night.
Some would say.
Pretty similar player in my opinion, but I do think Peoples-Jones has the edge over him. But yeah, just adding depth even is still such a good thing in the NFL nowadays with all these injuries.
Especially when you're a Super Bowl contending team like the Detroit Lions. Oh, what a sentence.
When you want to play in January, you got to have depth.
There it is. Put it on a shirt.
That
Or a fanny bag.
and if you want to play in January, a
I agree.
kick return specialist being your wide receiver 3 is never great.
True.
Correct. Yeah.
Very true. The Saints had that problem when Deontay Hardy was our wide receiver 3. However, Rashid Shaheed, our wide receiver 3 now, better wide receiver than I think Khalif Raymond is.
Yeah.
So moving on from the NFL, let's go into college. Let's talk about the team we're all repping. I know Rebo's chomping at the bit to get to talk about the LSU Tigers right now.
We got another
So
bot in the
Rebo,
chat.
why don't you just start us off and tell us what you want to tell us about this LSU Fighting Tigers football team?
We got some terrible news yesterday out of Brian Kelly. Makai Wingo just had surgery. Does not say of what kind, but he'll be out at least 6 weeks, which means unless we're in the playoff, he's probably not going to play for LSU ever again.
Wow. That is a heartbreaker for sure.
Definitely.
I mean, he's number 18. We know what number 18 means in the LSU football program. That's your leader. That's your guy. And then he can't play. And not only was he a leader in the locker room, but he was a leader on the field as well. Very, very good football player. Very sad to see him not be able to play. Like you said, if somehow we make the playoffs, he may make his return. But other than that, he's on the outside looking in.
And then Zy Alexander's also not available this week with an injury. And Denver Harris and Deuce Chestnut both unavailable for other reasons.
Yeah,
Not specified.
Your 3 best corners missing the game against Alabama's not always
Game
a
of
good
the
look.
year.
Not always a good look. College game day will be in Tuscaloosa for the 6:30 kickoff between the LSU Fighting Tigers and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Should be a very, very fun matchup. 2 top 15 teams. College football playoff rankings, the first edition, came out tonight, right before we started this. LSU's ranked number 14. So we'll see where that can lead us. I mean, every year it's LSU versus Alabama in a ranked matchup, first weekend of November, and everyone knows it's going to be a good game. It happens every single season, and this year is absolutely no different. I think, the biggest thing to watch for this game, I said it last week, but, we'll talk more in depth about it this time, is that Rebo's hat is not staying up. I think that's very important to note. But no, seriously, I think it's the fact that LSU has the best offense nationally, I would say.
Yeah.
At least top 3.
Yeah.
I
Still
would
don't
argue
have-
number 1,
Still
but
don't have any Heisman expectancies apparently. But
yeah,
whatever,
I don't understand.
They'll
I don't-
prove them.
Yeah. But we have arguably the best offense in the nation. Definitely the best in the SEC. And then Alabama probably has the best defense in the SEC. They've been playing really, really well. They had their low spots in the beginning of the season playing teams like Texas, but they held Ole Miss to like 24 points, which is a team who scored 55 on LSU. So
Hey, Auburn held them to 27.
wait, what? Auburn held Ole Miss to 27?
It was 27-20.
But so we know Alabama's defense is very good. We know Alabama's defense is reliable, and we know they're going to bring the energy against LSU. So you have strong on strong, which is always a fun thing to watch. Is who's going to come out on top?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the high-powered electric offense who can throw the ball, run the ball with the thrower? It doesn't matter. They're gonna find a way to move the ball.
I love that.
Versus
Run the
a defense
ball with the thrower.
Hey, I came with that one on the spot. But is it the offense that's going to take the lead, or is it that defense who has a top 10 NFL prospect and Kool-Aid McKinstry at corner, and then a stacked D line, who's going to come out on top in that matchup is something I'm really, really interested to see.
Yeah, something I believe is going to be something we've been used to seeing between LSU and Bama, and that being another clash of the Titans. Got to load a truck. All right, got to do what you got to do. Sometimes that's loading a truck. Hope you can come back and meet us again, Soundman, when we get to the bets.
Always a good better out of Sound, man.
Yeah, he won again. We'll get to that later, though.
Rebo, what's your thoughts on this matchup, man?
I don't know. It's just Bama's offense is just the go ball only. And, like, that's the only thing Jalen Milroe can throw accurately for some reason. And also he's a scrambler. We saw... What's the backup for Robbie Ashford? We saw Robbie
Ashford.
We saw Robbie Ashford come in for Auburn and give them a little spark with using his legs. So kind of worried about that. But also we've seen last year in the same matchup with Bama, Bryce Young also used his legs a lot. Harold Perkins was spying him every play. And so I'm interested to see if Harold's position, I guess, his role has changed since last week. 2 weeks ago, where we thought that he was more consistent as a nickel/dime overhang, and then pass rush specialist on third downs. I don't know if we'll see that again or we'll see more of a spy role, being they are predominantly go ball, rush the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Jalen Milroe is go ball or nothing. He really struggles with the thing that I think Jaden Daniels got the best at this season, which is targeting wide receivers in between the numbers. Jaden, to be honest, Jaden was not good at that last year.
No.
He improved as the year went on, but this year we're seeing him specifically attack the middle of the field, which is where you win when you have guys like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. You win in between the numbers and you win deep down the field, and that was always the question with Jaden Daniels is, can he push the ball? And he's been really good at that this year. So, while the quarterbacks do have some similarities in the fact that they do love the deep threat and they both can run, I think Jaden's definitely got the matchup. He's got it in his hands when it comes to which quarterback is better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels has been playing great.
Outstanding.
But like Reese said, it's really important to see, how is this defense going to utilize its personnel to match up with Alabama. Something Brian Kelly said yesterday, we watched this press conference, is that Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator at Alabama, is really good at taking the personnel that he has and making the offense fit it. So I'm wondering if Matt House can do the same with the LSU defense. Can we take who we have, with Harold Perkins being one of the best athletes, not just players but athletes, on defense? You have Whit Weeks, who's a freshman that Reese and I both, have grown fond of. And he's a young player who's absolutely fantastic. You're losing Mekhi Wingo, so who comes in there to, really stop the run, which we know Mekhi Wingo was great at? And then how do you utilize the secondary that we're missing our top three corners? Does Andre Sam take a step forward, as we've seen him do? He had 2 picks against Army. Sage Ryan has been playing a lot of nickel. Does he stay in that spot? And if he does, can he contain, very fast wide receivers in Alabama? So it'll be an interesting matchup, to say the least. I would like to say that I have LSU at the edge, but you never know. Right now, Alabama is, -3 on the spread. So they definitely expect it to be a close game. Vegas does, which obviously Vegas knows better than us.
Vegas is rarely wrong.
So it's expected to be a close matchup. I'm expecting it to be a close matchup. LSU has not scored less than 34 points over the past 5 weeks, but Alabama has not allowed more than 21. So we'll see which one of those gives way. And over the last 4, LSU's averaging roughly 56 points. So it's been a really, really good time to watch this LSU offense. I'm really excited to watch them play a really good defense and see how they match up. So I'm very excited for this game. on Saturday night, to say the least. I think it's going to be another classic, just like it was last year. Win to overtime.
Such a good
Jaden Daniels runs for that 25-yard touchdown. And then we go for two to, it was either kick the field goal to tie it up or go for two to win it all. And, our freshman tight end at the time, Mason Taylor, came through.
I mean,
And I think that's my opinion on this game is that's what it's going to come down to this game, too, is somebody who doesn't normally take that step is going to take that step, whether it's Logan Diggs out of the backfield, Caleb Jackson on a kick return, like somebody who doesn't
running over the kicker.
Yeah, like somebody who doesn't normally stand out is going to have one big play in this game where you're like, that guy won us the game. It could obviously be Brian Thomas or Malik Neighbors or Jaden, who's been so consistent and so great for us all season. But against Alabama, we always see somebody step up, and I'm curious to see who that's going to be this year.
Yeah, I mean, last year, throwing it back, I personally was a big fan of Brian Kelly coming in. Tommy was not.
Bryce was not. Tommy plays baseball. Tommy's worried
Doesn't
about
have an
hitting
opinion.
tanks. Tommy's worried about hitting tanks.
But I believe when that Bama game ended, me and Redfish were on the same page.
What page was that?
When we scored that touchdown and Brian Kelly whipped out his nuts and handed them on a platter to Saban and said, I'm going for two, I'm going for the win. That's when I thought he belongs here.
Yeah. If only, we would have done that against Florida State, we probably would have made the playoffs last year, but it's fine. Anyway.
But anyways, I digress. I think it'll be a very similar game to last year. That being a close game, down to the wire. Like you said, somebody's going to step up. Don't know who it could be. I know who it could be. It'll be Brian Thomas, BT Cruiser.
BT Cruiser.
Give me 220 yards out of the fella.
220, huh?
3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns. Hello.
Mark it.
Rebo, what you got
Don't
for us?
bet it, but mark it.
Don't bet it, but mark it. Rebo, who's going to stand out and who's going to win?
So Mekhi Wingo being out is heartbreaking, but we've seen a revolving door of interior defensive linemen this year, and Brian Kelly in his press conference pointed out that a familiar name, not a familiar player, but Jordan Jefferson has been
Valid.
Cursed.
has been elite. Like his efficiency in the snaps that he's gotten and that he's got, whatever. But
Either or.
We know English isn't your strong suit. It's
No.
okay.
oh yeah, we know. But in those snaps, though limited, he's looked great. I really think that he'll step up in a big way defensively, but offensively, I feel like it's more of an O-line challenge. We've seen very strange things out of the offensive line in pressure situations, like we saw in the last play of the game against Ole Miss, where they rushed one and somehow got pressure. But I do think that if the offensive line can step up, give Jaden time to go through those progressions that we've come to learn that he knows how to go through now, this offense can still be just as potent as ever, and we just may see the 250 yards from BT Cruiser and things like that.
Boy, we have fun on here, huh?
You're having a blast over there. What an idiot.
How about we get some score predictions?
Score predictions. Here we go. Rebo, do you want to lead it this time? That way I don't steal your thunder.
Oh, no, I don't have one. You can't steal it.
Okay. Whatever, dude. I'm going to go... I'll start us off. I'm going to go
Desperado.
41-35 LSU.
41-35.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
41. It's roughly, about what we've been scoring all season. I definitely think Alabama's defense is better than the past 3 we've played, where we've scored 48, 49, and 62. However, this offense is proven it's a force to be reckoned with. So you can't take it for granted. You can't take it lightly. I think we'll catch them slipping a couple times. This offense has been... Now, I know people get freaked out about the 2019 offense when you start talking about people comparing them to them, but this offense has been roughly as good.
Yeah.
I know we hate to see it because it's not Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and all the names,
Yeah.
but scoring-wise and yardage-wise, this offense has done things that they didn't in 2019. And we scored exactly 41 points against them in 2019, I believe. 46. It was 46-41 at the end of that game. So I'm going to go 41-35. LSU Tigers take home the win with Jaden Daniels securing the number 1 spot in the Heisman.
Oh, I love it. I love the chutzpah. You want to go? You want me to go?